Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Purpose for Life podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Roberts. Grateful to be here with you today. I'm the author of It's Deeper Than That and the documentary It's Deeper Than That, premiering October 15th. We'll put a link in the podcast so you can sign up to live stream it or come in person if you're in Columbus, Ohio. And I am so excited to have here with us today Alyvia Johnson. And I've known Alyvia Johnson for about 10 years? Does that seem right?
Yes, that's great. Yes, 10 years.
And I've gotten to see Alyvia evolve and mature and grow and become this incredible human being. And today we're going to take some time to talk about what does it mean to face into financial literacy. And we're going to hear Alyvia's journey and all the things she's been exposed to, what she's passionate about, and what she has to offer you listeners. So I'm so excited. Thank you for being here, Alyvia.
Suzanne, thank you so much for having me. Oh, I'm so excited to get into it today. And again, everyone, hi, Alyvia Johnson. And I'm just really centered right now in my life on helping people live life rich on purpose. So I am excited to jump into some discussion today.
I love that. Helping people live rich on purpose. That sounds like a title of a book, a thought leader book. So we can talk about that more later because books are a way to leverage your influence and impact. So, can you talk about why that's important to you and how you came to that awareness?
Yeah, so I was sharing earlier. So I went to a four-year institution and it was great. And then no one tells you though, when you graduate and you just have this mountain of debt. And then I went to school for a post-secondary degree and I was looking at over $100,000 of debt.
Wow.
And no one really tells you how you navigate that and live life how you want to live at the same time. And so I
Wait,
started to
can we
kind of
just
go on.
pause for a second and just hear the impact of getting an education and ending up $100,000 in debt? That's a
Yeah,
lot.
a
Okay. So,
lot, right?
yes,
And
thank
when you're
you.
graduating, when you're a 20 something year old and you come out and it might be hard to get a job, or you get your first job and you're like, okay, I'm making $10 an hour. What do I do?
Right.
And you're just faced with, okay, what's the plan here? And nobody has necessarily communicated what the plan is. And oh, by the way, all throughout school, it may be different now, but many people don't get a financial education. There's no mapping of what a financial game plan is. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do this. Let me figure it out. So I went on a self journey. I picked up your Dave Ramsey's and just things where I would, Google things and try to figure out a plan. So
Hmm.
I ended up within 6.5 years paying off all of my debt.
Are you serious?
Yes, but there was some sacrifice. There was some sacrifice.
Okay.
I immediately from college, I moved back home, and that was not something I wanted to do. I'm blessed to be able to do that, to have parents where I had a space to do that, but that was not the plan. And I was like, but you know what? Let me think about what I really want in the future, and having this debt is not part of that. So I moved home, and then immediately and my first job, I was making like 30,000 a year. So anything I had, I was just putting it towards that.
Hmm.
There were times when my friends were going on trips, out of country trips, and I had to decline. I actually missed a really good friend's wedding because I was so locked in on my goal. Sent a gift though. I sent a gift, but was really locked in on my goal. So definitely some sacrifice.
R-
But from just kind of, why I wanted to, I just knew I wanted to live a different life. I'm still on the, journey to live a different life, but it started there, trying to just figure it out for myself.
And then will you talk about at your first job what you got exposed to that made you shift your awareness, shift your thinking?
So I walked into this amazing organization, an organization committed to social change for women and girls. And so, just kind of an example of what that means, social change, when you think about economic wise, economic strength for women and girls, when you think about resources. And then when you actually break that down, when it comes to ethnicity. So, the difference between Hispanic women and girls, Caucasian women and girls, African American women and girls, and where you see those differences. So, this organization, it had a lot of donors who would come to the table and contribute and pour into the just idea and the movement of social change for women and girls. And I was a stewardship coordinator, and I worked hand in hand with these donors and these women coming to the table, seeing how they could contribute in large amounts, by the way. And I had never seen anything like that. Where people would be able to give more of themselves and give freely, just not only funds, but also time for something that wasn't connected to their basic needs, how they would live, or just kind of consumer for them and their family, whether it's cars or shopping or things like that. Actually, hey, you know what? I care about this. I want to give $10,000 a year so that we can research ways where we can impact women and girls in our community. It was mind blowing. And I knew right then and there, in some part of my journey, I wasn't necessarily to start there, but eventually I wanted to have stewardship part of my life and have
Mm.
contribution and give more and just be impactful for my community.
That's so interesting that you got exposure to a different way of having financial literacy than what you had been raised and experienced growing up. And then you talked about not having financial literacy training and you creating your own way of gaining financial literacy. And so can you talk about why it's crucial to take time to spend on one's own finances and what people might come up against not spending time on their own finances?
Yeah, I was talking to a potential client the other day, and they were saying, you know what, I've never been in a comfort space to talk to someone about this. And one of the things that I shared with them is I'm really here to ask questions and kind of figure out what is your tie to financials? What is your tie to money? What's your experience been? Just to kind of understand your story and really understand what it means to you. And then also, what do you want for yourself? What
Mm-hmm.
motivates you? What are you desire? What's your desire? And so from there, we're coming up on 4 years. So I go to a non-denominational church here in Columbus, Ohio, and with one other individual, we started a financial ministry. Yeah, we're coming up on 4 years,
Wow.
and it's open to the community, but definitely open to our members. And we bring in different resources. We bring in, topics related to credit, investments, home ownership, and it's just so important because where else are people going to get this information? And it just lays it in a way where, people can come, you don't have to expect anything. And then there's also, if you want to take action, you're able to. So when you stick your head in the sand and you don't look at something, it's never going to progress. And I always tell people the first start is really awareness and kind of awareness to your situation. And then from there, it's not about shame. It's about figuring out where you want to go, and let's figure out how to get there.
So you had something, you wanted to pay off your debt because you wanted something else for your future, right? What can you say a few things besides having stewardship and you being a steward? What are some of the other ways that you imagined you wanted to live debt free that were important to you?
Yeah, so when I became debt free, one of the kind of down the tunnel vision was home ownership. And so after
Mm.
I paid off my last debt, I actually purchased my first home a couple months later.
And
So that was something.
you had saved up enough money for a down payment and is that
Yes. So I paid off the debt, and then it was just kind of like, okay, let's save for a down payment. Let's figure out what the resources are. And through talking with different people, I actually entered into this first home this first time home buyers, say that quick 3 times, first time home buyers class, and was able to really understand what I needed to start to do to even be a homeowner. So after doing that, was able to purchase my first home. So that was something I saw for myself. This past year, I was able to go on vacation and take my parents there. So being
Aw.
able to go on vacation, and my parents are, getting older. So that was also part of the picture. And one thing, so I I think what I love about this life is that it never just has to be one thing and that only thing. Um, I may decide that I want something to be a part of my life in 3 months, and then I got to figure out how to get there, or next year. So I think I'm always becoming, and always trying to figure out what next will look like, or what I want to add, or how I want to expand. So those were some of the things, though. Immediately, home ownership, and then spending time with family in a vacation setting.
What if people don't have lived in such a limited way for so long that they don't even hope or want something for themselves to then do the dedicated work to get there? Does that make sense?
So are you saying when, I think I understand what you're saying, and correct me if I'm
Right.
thinking about it wrong. One thing about finances is it's more mindset than anything. And so before you can even go into activation, one of the things that I like to do is talk through education. So I don't know if you've experienced this, but with other things and finances, sometimes we do something because somebody told us to do it, and we didn't really understand what was happening, and we just did it. And what I really like to talk with people is the education piece behind whatever it is that we're, talking about, so that they can actually really have a viewpoint about it. They can connect it to their own life and life experiences to see if it's something that works for them, to then start to, do the mind shift. One of the things, though, about finances is if your mindset is not already there, it's going to have to get there. And
Where is
that
it going to
timeline.
have to get? Tell me where you have to get with your mindset.
So I think that mindset is something where if you've always done something a certain way, or it's generational, that's just how you know it to be. And I think with the education piece, you can come in and show something different.
I
But just
see.
because someone shows you something different doesn't mean it's going to connect right away. That mindset timeline is so different for every person. And what may take one person something quickly to be like, okay, you know what, I've been doing it this way, now I see a different way, let me move towards that. It may take somebody years to make the connection and get that way. But what I say is, I'm always here. I'm always going to share the education. I'm always going to be willing to have the conversation. And when that person's ready, I'm going to be there to help.
And when you say help, can you say, besides education, what are some of the very specific ways that you do help?
Yeah, so I mentioned before that a lot of people, or many people, don't get a financial education. That also kind of trickles down to having a financial game plan, and then also having a financial coach. And so when I am with my clients and individuals, it is truly a partnership, and we are creating a financial plan to lead towards financial independence. And one thing that I do, we do a financial needs analysis, very comprehensive, looks at cash position, looks at, debt. We have an amazing debt accelerator program I work with some of my clients on, and we find a financial independence number. And that number is what your number is to whenever you want to, I'll use the word retire, but say repurpose, or however somebody wants to phrase that. But one of the things that I, share is that our employers are really only meant to probably help us towards retirement, or for financial freedom, about 40%. The rest is up to us. So we do that through investments. We do that through income protection. Some people are looking for trust and wills. Some people with children, we're able to make sure that children are set up with their investments accounts. So we're thinking about that legacy and actually creating a comprehensive wealth plan. So those are just some of the areas.
That's really exciting. You seem really passionate about this, Alyvia. Why does it mean so much to you?
You know, so I don't remember if I mentioned I do this part-time and my full-time job is in human resources. And I did some content on this on my one of my social media pages about really the alignment with HR and finance. And both are really about people, growth, and freedom. And so when you think about HR, you're helping people navigate the workplace. You're helping people think about, development of themselves, growing in their careers. Finances is the same way. So we're thinking about growth, growing our assets. We're thinking
Mm,
about using money as a tool. We're looking at it to create freedom and legacy. Um, it is so important to me because it's something that I necessarily wasn't taught as a child, and I have been to tables where um, some families don't necessarily have that access. I mean, even stats show that about 25% of American workers have less than $10,000 in their retirement savings.
hmm.
You're going to be working forever, and I don't want that for anyone. Another thing I saw was that 35% of Black families don't have a retirement account. I'm part of the African American community. And when I think about my community and just people in my community that I'm close with, um, it is not necessarily heavy on wealth building and
Right.
investments and having assets. And so that is something where I can have impact in my community, for all people, but especially in my community.
That makes a lot of sense. I remember Elsie Johnson at Zora's house talking about that, that rather than seeing Black women as at risk or whatever, but they're a great promise for wealth, and how to build generational wealth and how to put yourself in that playing field. And I love that you're
Definitely.
making that an opportunity for your community. Is it
Definitely.
so when you how do people get a hold of you on social media? Because I get to hear you on social media, which is why I wanted you on my podcast because I saw you. I mean, I knew you were in HR. And then I hear you on the podcast talking about financial literacy and financial education, and I'm like, what is she up to? I want her on my podcast. So, but how can people watch you on social media, and then how can they get a hold of you as a financial coach?
Yes. So I am mostly on all platforms. So on Facebook, it's just going to be my name, Alyvia Johnson. YouTube, Instagram, even TikTok. I'm figuring TikTok out. It's going to be Live Rich Network. So I mentioned in the beginning, I am all about helping people live life rich on purpose. So you will find me by Live Rich Network. I really just want people to know that you don't have to settle for survival. Wealth is possible with knowledge and strategy. And I am available to help people set strategy. You can book a introduction call with me. I will make sure that my calendar link is listed.
Thank you so much. I do have another question for you. Can you talk about some of the mindset negative thinking around money or how shame might show up or what are some of the barriers that our minds hold that aren't actually accurate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one mindset that I think is just deeply rooted, Americans, but also I've seen in the African American community, is consumerism. And so when you have a mindset where you are always consuming first and not investing in yourself first, And
Mm,
we see that, you can see that in, well, I spend on cars before I put away $5 for my emergency fund. If you really look at and break, and I don't have these numbers in front of me right now, but if you break down the collective buying power of each race within the country, and then you compare that to retirement accounts I mentioned, or just investing, period, it's not equal at all. How are we putting that much money out, but we're not building ourselves up? Another, I guess, mindset I would think about is some people are living paycheck to paycheck, and that can be because they aren't earning enough. And so
right.
from there could be, some shame there. It could be some, I'm doing what I can. And I work with people who are in that situation as well, so that we can actually put that financial position together and see exactly where the money's going, because we want money to work for us and not the other way around. And sometimes it's, I need more income. Okay, so let's focus on that. What are some ways we can leverage and figure out more income?
I'm losing you
I
for
think
a second.
another
Yeah.
mindset that pops into my, oh, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. I think another mindset that pops into my head is not preparing for after, for legacy,
Mm,
and the mindset of, I've even heard this from younger generations, the YOLO, you only live once. So there is a large amount there. I think it's about 60% of Americans are actually more nervous about having enough to survive in retirement than dying, than passing away. And so these two things are going to be true. Either, unfortunately, you are going to, pass away prematurely. And if, when, 100%, we all know that 100% at some time we're going to pass away. And for people who are depending on you from an income standpoint, or if you have kids or family or whatever, and not actually having a legacy built up, I think there's a mindset miss there. As well as, my grandmother passed away at 92. You want to have money that's going to outlast you, so that you're able to live the life that you want to live. So either way, I think there's sometimes a mindset miss on what really building that wealth should look like.
What are some dreams you have for yourself if you could have your wildest life financially?
You know what? I don't even know. Okay, what are my wildest dreams financially? This is a good question. I'm gonna have to think about it. Let me try to figure out one thing. I want to incorporate more travel. Um, Eventually, when I may decide to do financial advising full time, and so being able to do this and travel at the same time, I can talk to a client from wherever I am, virtually. So that, I think also, I do have giving as part of my legacy and as part of my
Hmm.
financial plan, but to even expand that more and possibly create some funds for, um, I got to figure that part out, but just to expand in that area, and probably create some funds around a specific target segment of the need.
Interesting. And what about your retirement?
You know what? One thing I'm gonna tell you, Suzanne. So the traditional retirement age is like 67 plus. That is not gonna be your girl. I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. The thing is, though, I will say, I think it's more so going to be a repurpose. Do I think that one day I'm just not going to do anything? I don't think that. I'll just be able to kind of move a little bit more freely and independently from your corporate 9 to 5 structure. I still want to be an impact to my community. So I definitely see that in a retirement repurposing phase, but it is not going to be 67 plus for me. It's going to be about 50 years old.
Well, I love that. What I like is that you're demonstrating um, in a practical way for other people, how they want to think and be strategic towards what they want for themselves. And one of the things I loved that you said the most is that you have to feed yourself first before you do anything else, and people aren't giving to themselves. And I think that's so true on so many different levels. We live, with so much hustle and drive and disconnection and seeking through consumerism something that's never going to fulfill us, instead of investing in ourselves and allowing ourselves to have a future where we're okay, and okay in the moment and okay in the future. So I love everything that you're saying today. And
Definitely.
I think it's great. I hope the listeners, any of you out there that want strategy with your finances, goals, want to look at your mindset, free yourself, find the kind of freedom that you hope for yourself, and dream. Dream for a life you didn't know that you could have. And I also really love that you said that maybe you are living paycheck to paycheck. That doesn't mean you can't have the future you want. You just need a partner with you to help you figure out how you can get there. And we
Absolutely.
all can do that. And I feel like if you could pay off $100,000 in 6 years, anybody can do anything. Really,
I
you
think
just
so.
have
Yeah.
you just have to put your mind to it and decide that that's what you want. One of the things, Alyvia, that I love to ask my podcast guests as we're winding down is, what do you think the purpose for life is?
What do I think the purpose of life is? I kind of talked a little bit about this on one of my social platforms. And I recently met with a potential client, just kind of doing an introduction. And one of the things this individual said was, I saw that are a financial advisor, and I was thinking I should reach out because I'm just in a position where I need help. But you ended up reaching out to me. So it was just, alignment and timing and just an emotional state that this individual was in. And I realized that one of the things I am put on this in this life for is to be of impact and to figure out how I can serve someone else, serve individuals, and serve my community. So I do think that at least a part of life is figuring out what you were put here to do to serve and how you were put here to provide impact in whatever way that is.
I love that. Thank you so much for saying that. And I do think it requires us to connect deeply with ourselves to figure out how we're made or how we're designed and to serve. And instead of trying to perform it or prove it or produce it, but we all are made a certain way in a very unique way that's particular to us, and we're gifted in a particular way, and understanding your own gifts and then applying them. I
Definitely.
think that's beautiful. I really, really appreciate you saying that. Once again, Alyvia, will you share with people how they can get a hold of you on
Yeah,
your
so you can find my socials, Alyvia Johnson. It's Olivia with Alyvia, on Facebook, and then other platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram as Live Rich Network, it's all together. Also, I will make sure that my calendar link to schedule a free introduction call as well. So
Alyvia, thank you so much for being here today. Our listeners are really gifted to have you here and to listen to you and to get inspiration and strategy and pathways. So, thank you so, so much. And thank you for being with us on the Purpose for Life podcast. We're signing off today. Look for the link for the October 15th premiere of It's Deeper Than That, the book and documentary, and we're excited. Thank you so much.
thank you.